Everyone complains about government. How do we fix or improve it? Can it be done? Fresh perspectives are next on Lakeshore Focus. Stay with us. Running a business requires smart decisions every day. Make a good decision for your company today and reach other businesses by sponsoring Lakeshore Focus. People who watch our show are an active part of the community. They care about their neighborhoods, schools, and their homes. Are these viewers your customers? Well, they should be. To learn about all the benefits of sponsoring Lakeshore Focus, give us a call at 219-756-5656. And instead of seeing my face, you can see your business. Welcome again to Lakeshore Focus, a weekly show highlighting the key issues, important events, and interesting people in our region. I'm Keith Kirkpatrick. Most of us would agree that our governing process in America is broken, or at least does not work very well. A group of community leaders and concerned citizens gathered to have a conversation about this subject. Here to report on what they saw and heard are two of the participants from that event. With fresh perspectives, we have Elizabeth Clements and Jim Jessup. Now, I usually give these big titles of what you guys do, but really, you're here because you are engaged citizens. But people might want to know a little bit about your background. You're now a student, Elizabeth, right?
Yes.
So you've just kind of gone back to school?
Yes.
As a non-traditional student?
Yes.
What were you doing before that?
I was a restaurant manager for McDonald's.
Okay, and you did that for really quite a few years.
Actually, I've worked for McDonald's since my teenage years.
Okay,
Yep.
You act like that was way back or something.
Yeah. It was.
You look young enough that it wasn't
Great.
that long ago.
Thank you.
Jim, on the other hand, has done a lot of things. Gosh, Jim, real quick, school teacher, what else have you done?
Yeah, I spent about 20 years of my life in the education field, about 20 years of my life doing a business, a State Farm insurance agent. Retired about 12 years ago now and have always been an active volunteer in the community trying to make things better.
You're definitely in the category of somebody who's really engaged in the community and a community leader. I see that. I know that about you.
We've worked together many years.
We have. So Elizabeth, you're kind of a little new to this game, kind of jumping into what's your interest in? Why are you so interested in government and governance and elections and those kind of things?
Well, I've always been interested. I've always voted. I've always felt that it was my duty. But since going back to school, I am majoring in psychology. But I've been looking more at the psychology that's applied in politics and the way that voters have a perception of the candidate and why do we vote for the people that we vote for and what are the values that really, stick to people and what do they want to see.
So you're taking all the psychology classes like in, unusual behavior
Yes.
and dysfunctional minds and all that kind of stuff, because that kind of ties to politics, don't you think?
Yeah, it really does, especially in this day and age and, the different things that we're seeing and with social media being out there and, the way that candidates are able to represent themselves and is that a turnoff? Is it a turn on? Are you getting the votes? Are you, really articulating your ideas?
There is a lot of psychology to it.
Yeah, there really is.
I don't know if I've ever asked you this question before, but why have you engaged yourself so deeply into the community, into leadership roles, and helping teach leaders to be good leaders?
Yeah, I've always kind of gone toward that leadership kind of thing. I like to watch the whole leadership play out. I'm not an active participant politically in any way, but I've just enjoyed watching good and bad leadership. And I think every community needs so many really good leaders, decision makers, and it's fun for me to work with those people and try to offer suggestions on how community leaders can get better and improve their community. So it's all about leadership and community for me.
Well, I disagree with the fact that you said you're really not involved in an active role, because there's people who are out. You're just not always out front, but you are definitely behind the scenes.
I want to stay there, quite frankly, yes.
Well, we need a lot of people behind the scenes and doing things and helping guide people. So I asked both of you on the show because you were at this specific event. And so when I talked to Jim on the phone, I said, find somebody who's an active participant. And I said, you guys are really going to come here like you're mini reporters. You were there, and I want our audience to know what happened, because this seemed like a pretty significant event. Jim, can you what was this event?
It was precipitated certainly by just low voter turnout in LaPorte County. Historically, and that's true of every county, of course, but specifically in LaPorte County, and then just not a lot of engagement from young people and older people in the whole process, political process and the voting process. So we said, well, let's put a forum together and bring in seasoned people in the community, and then let's show a lot of young faces too. We wanted young faces in this forum. And so we invited high school students from all over the county and our PNW, Purdue friends also, to come and sit down as panelists and discuss the issues, and specifically, what can we do about it then, of course. When we got done discussing, we said, let's do something, and what suggestion do you have about improving the voter process, improving the electoral process, the political process in LaPorte County? And we very specifically kept it local in focus.
And I want our viewers to know this conversation is not just about LaPorte County, because I think, in fact, one of the reasons I wanted you on this show was to talk about this issue everywhere. Voter turnout is low everywhere. Engagement in the community is low everywhere.
It is. We
got some real problems in our communities. So you ask Elizabeth, so why do you think he asked you to be part of this?
I don't know, maybe just my interest.
She doesn't know that, quite
Yeah.
frankly. Again, we really wanted to reach out to young people. And so we went to the high schools and asked, high schoolers to come. But then, of course, we have the Purdue right in our backyard there. And so we wanted them we reached out to some of the staff and professors at Purdue and asked them to make some suggestions of students who might be interested in attending the forum and then also participating. And I had 3 or 4 students contact me, and I just looked through their resumes and kind of randomly picked Elizabeth as the one to do that. I didn't know her, I had never met her, but just from things she said, I think she would have been a good participant, and she was. She did amazing things. So
having heard that explanation, how do you feel about the fact that you were picked to be part of this panel and be part of the speakers at the event?
It makes me feel special. It makes me feel like maybe I do have some good ideas roaming around up here, and
you realize Jim's really big on trying to find people to run for office and
Yes.
things like that, right? So he's kind of one of those, again, behind the scenes and pokes people.
I do have to say that Elizabeth did an amazing thing after she was chosen for this. She went on a Facebook page, a LaPorte Facebook page, and posted some really good questions that she said, we're going to be asked as a panelist, what would you provide as feedback? It sounds dangerous, right, to open something up like that on Facebook. But she got amazing comments, over 100 comments back, almost all of them great comments, positive comments, and she did a great job of moderating the discussion on Facebook.
Wow. Well, tell us about what kind of response you got.
well, I basically just asked some real generalized questions. Do you vote? Do you not vote? If so, why not? What do you feel would be important to become, a more informed voter? Because I think that's a big issue. Would you ever, run for an elected position? What do you value? Just real generalized questions about politics, not necessarily, party lines or anything like that. And we got about 150 comments, and there was no fighting, there was no party this or party that.
That's amazing.
It was
amazing.
It really was.
It was very positive input and feedback that we were seeking, of course, in the forum, but she got this all prior to the forum.
Yeah. So it gave you some ammunition to kind of...
Yes, and that's what I was looking for.
Were most of the people you reached out to or responded, were they younger?
I had all over the place. One person who I actually went to school with, she she had responded, and she's about 20 or so. And then I had, senior citizens responding, 70 to 75, with their experience, what it's been like voting, throughout the years, what they've seen change.
Why'd you do this?
Well, personally, I was just looking for insight for the panel. Like, I wanted to, come in informed and maybe have just some general ideas from LaPorte County residents and what they wanted to see happen, since we were kind of focusing on a local level.
So let's give our viewers a little bit. There was a panel of younger people in the morning, and I love your term, the seasoned people in the afternoon. Are these in their fall or winter season?
This actually was a Saturday morning in January, and we had 8 high school students on the panel. Saturday morning, 8:30 in January came out, and it was all morning, an all morning session. Again, with high school and younger students on the first panel, and then somewhat older students, although we had a couple of millennials on that adult panel too.
So this is all about trying to find out where people kind of stand with the political process and how they view it, and why people are so standoffish, and why they're not engaged, why everybody complains about everything. So what was your biggest takeaway from the panel in the morning?
The students want to be engaged. I walked away with just the overwhelming sense that the kids wanted to know more about what is happening in our local government. They talked about their government classes mostly focusing on federal and state level, but they never really break it down to the local level. And so a couple of them had wanted the officials to actually come to their school and explain to them what they do, how to run for an elected position, the different aspects of government. And then the more seasoned panel had come back with, well, maybe we could do shadow days where, we come, we tell you about our job, and then maybe some students come with us to, the courthouse.
So there's some practical ideas. As you talk about the younger people being engaged, and I think historically we've always seen that. Did anybody talk during the panel, or maybe it was with the more seasoned panel, why people at some point lose that interest or start backing off? Because here you have high school students who are going, yeah, we want to be engaged, but we know now the voter turnout, when it comes to time to be engaged and vote, it drops way off. Was there discussion any time during the day about what's going on to disengage
there
people?
were many reasons given, and they kind of fell into certain categories. One of them, very simply, the whole mud of the political thing, the national right now, of course, turns people off for sure. They have a real problem voting in the primary elections that are closed primaries. In other words, you must go choose, they're open primaries, literally, meaning you have to choose a political party in the primary. Lots of comments that they don't like that at all. The communication is not good. How do you communicate? I saw people say, I just forget on election day to go and vote. Now, to me, that just seems impossible with all of the stuff that goes on.
So what do they mean by the communication is not good? What are they saying?
People communicate in so many different ways now. Obviously, the younger people want to communicate on social media mainly. The older people don't. People don't read newspapers anymore. The whole communication about community, I think, slips past a lot of people these days because we don't communicate in the same way like we used to, certainly.
What did you hear, Elizabeth, in terms of why you think younger people, or what's your theory? Why do people start off in their teens and so forth? Many of them want to run for office, but by the time they turn 25 or 30, they're like, forget this.
I really agree with what Jim had said. There was a lot of talk about running their names through the mud, They just didn't want to listen to all the negativity. They wanted to hear more positive things that were going on.
Or be subjected to it, right?
Yeah, right.
So that's kind of amazing. So
there are a lot of technical issues too that are involved. People said should open the polls longer. Go to voting centers so we know where we can go and vote every time, the same place kind of thing.
Really want to change how we're doing things.
A lot of system changes, right? Same day registration was a big deal that actually is in the legislature right now. It's not going to happen this year, but that's a big deal. As I mentioned, the primary thing, ballot, vote by ballot, or vote by mail. That's becoming a huge thing across the country, and a lot of states are having a lot of success voting by mail. There are lots of system things that affect people also.
Right. So let me ask you this, and I'll ask you now from your perspective. You were watching the seasoned group, so what was your takeaway from the older group, what they were saying?
That they didn't really realize that the younger generation wanted to be engaged. They just thought that, they were like, it's voting, it's not a big deal, and they really kind of took to the idea of going to the local schools and, talking about what they do and getting the youth to, engage with them. So.
Was it noticeable with the millennials versus the more seasoned? The millennials, I guess, are more in their summer of their seasons, right?
There we go. I guess maybe that's what it is.
Because we won't say who was in the winter of their seasons.
Right, yeah, don't go there.
Did you notice a difference in what was said by the younger adults versus the older adults? Was there any difference?
I think the biggest difference that I seen was the social media comments. One youth panelist had made the comment, this past election was won on Twitter. And the seasoned people that were there were like, no, they really don't like the negativity that usually comes with social media. If they post, we're looking at doing this, they don't want to read through all the negative comments about, character and whatnot. Whereas the youthful generation was like, well, that's how we see the news. We don't sit down and watch the TV.
And that leads, of course, to the political parties and the candidates having to change their methods of getting the word out, for sure, which we did have political parties there. We had a lot of candidates and elected officials in the room, and their eyes, I think, were opened a lot by hearing this thought, we've got to change how we're getting the word out. We've got to change how we communicate with the public out there. I think that was a big takeaway from a lot of the older adults in the room and the candidates and the parties too.
So it's interesting. There was a lot of comments about communication, yet when there is communication that works, it's kind of negative and not real functional. So
I think a lot of that comes, again, much more from the national scene, that people associate that just in general political politics and elections, that people immediately think of a negative kind of thing. We heard my vote doesn't count. Heard a lot of that, really, that they really think that they go and vote, but it doesn't count, doesn't make a difference.
Which is really interesting, because you would think that argument makes sense at a national level.
Right.
But at a local level, when you see somebody wins 322 to 319, it's like, those votes do count. There's only 600 people voting.
Well, there was one comment on that is the schools aren't teaching how the local government functions, so the children are walking away with everything functions on a national level. So they don't realize the Electoral College doesn't have anything to do with our local elections. So one vote is one vote, and like you said, it might be a margin of 2 or 3 votes.
So that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So the students were saying that they just really don't know how local government functions?
Right.
They apparently, from what they said, and it was pretty clear, the local schools do not teach local government, that local level kind of government. Townships and county government apparently is not taught in the schools. And we heard that loud and clear. So we've started to form a committee already. In fact, one of the elected officials after the meeting came up to me and said, I will volunteer to chair that group. We're going to reach out to the schools and see if we can get forums, training, something into the schools to talk about local politics, local elections, and also about how we get these kids engaged, because they were begging for engagement. They were begging for that.
So there really wasn't an expectation to have tangible outcomes to this. It was really meant to be really a conversation.
We wanted people, and at the end of the session, we said, okay, who's going to make a commitment here now? We want a commitment from you. And we wrote down, a lot of people just, stood up and said, gave really ideas, commitments of what they're going to do. And we walked out of there. In fact, I just this morning compiled a list. I think I ended up with about 40 ideas, things that we need to work on locally.
So there was one concrete one you just shared. Did you hear any other concrete like themes that were like everybody seemed to kind of want to do something?
Really just the education of it and the communication of where to find the information about forums or candidates and things like that. I think those were really the two main issues we walked away with.
How has this changed you, both of you? How has this changed your perception of things and kind of how you see your role, particularly you, the younger person? Not to take away from Jim here, right?
Well, as far as my perception, in government class, at least, we're always taught that the 18 to 25 demographic just doesn't vote. They just don't vote. And so this was really eye-opening to hear these kids that are in that demographic talking about, we want to vote, we want to understand, please.
But how did it change you personally? So that made you aware, but what are you going to do different?
I don't know. I just really want to become involved on a political level. I want to be able to, help people register to vote. I want to be able to find a way to fix that communication gap. I think that's something that I've been thinking about a lot, is how do we get this information to everyone on a level that everybody can get to.
You have a motivation and an idea. We might have to do a follow-up show and see what she's done in 6 months or 1 year. Has this changed your perception of anything, Jim, or how you're going to do something differently?
I've been working with kids and with these issues for years, and I've always said our youth is a resource that we ignore in our communities way too much. I saw this group of people in this room come to realize that same thing as they were sitting there. I've known it for a long time. We need to find ways to reach out to these kids and engage them in the community. I've always been a proponent of creating a culture of youth advisory councils within a community at all levels: government, nonprofit, business. I think service organizations, every one of them needs a youth advisory council.
Okay.
And I've been saying that for years, and I saw other people kind of say, wow, I think that could work.
Well, I'd like to encourage our viewers to consider that even though this was done in LaPorte County, this could be done in any county, in a portion, in a community, any place, to have this dialogue and start this conversation, because we do need to fix this problem and get people more engaged, and particularly not lose our young people who are interested, but then lose interest. So thank you both for coming and sharing what you saw and heard, and for your participation in the community. I really appreciate both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. I think most of us would say that our political system is broken. The list of problems and complaints is substantial. Where should we start to fix it? I have been giving this quite a bit of thought and talking with some wise people. My conclusion: we need to overhaul our election process. It probably needs repaired at every level, but I'm going to focus primarily on state and federal. Let's begin with campaign cycles. One might argue that we no longer have periods of time specifically devoted to determining who our elected leaders will be. We seem to be in a constant state of campaigning. As soon as the president, or for that matter, anyone is elected, we begin to speculate who will run against him or her next. The most obvious downside of continual campaigning is the distraction from genuine issues. If candidates are busy trying to get reelected, when do they have time to deal with the problems at hand? Our second major issue is money and what it creates. Have you looked at the incredibly large number of dollars pumped into the process of promoting and selling the electorate on picking specific candidates and then electing them? By spending so much money, we prolong the cycles and devote our resources to convincing rather than educating. The third obvious problem is partisanship. I think the benefits of having two major parties have diminished significantly over the years. Party loyalty has tied the hands and minds of our leaders and our voters. We witness polarity, divisiveness, fighting, and gridlock, which have all gotten worse. So what do? Let's limit campaigns to specific periods of time and broaden the definition of campaigning. The time devoted to selecting our leaders should be finite and the activities more clearly delineated. Let's limit spending. We do not need to be bombarded by television and radio ads, which are mostly negative. How many signs, buttons, and stickers are required? If candidates are forced to think about how they allocate limited resources, they may be more strategic. Let's shift our emphasis in campaigning to education on issues and problems. I'm not sure how to manage this change, but there is little substance in current campaigning. It may seem too simple, but it's a start. There has been much talk over the years about campaign reform, yet it seems to go nowhere. Let's encourage our elected representatives to place this issue much higher. If you fix the start of the process, perhaps the outcomes will improve. We can only get better, right? Thanks for watching Lakeshore Focus. Please send your thoughts and feedback to us through the email address listed on your screen. Check out our website. You can watch past episodes from there or on YouTube. If you subscribe to our Facebook page, you'll be notified of upcoming shows. Tell your friends, family, co-workers, and neighbors that you watch Lakeshore PBS and it impacts your life. Join us next week for another Lakeshore Focus. Until then, I'm Keith Kirkpatrick saying, make a positive difference in our world today. Running a business requires smart decisions every day. Make a good decision for your company today and reach other businesses by sponsoring Lakeshore Focus. People who watch our show are an active part of the community. They care about their neighborhoods, schools, and their homes. Are these viewers your customers? Well, they should be. To learn about all the benefits of sponsoring Lakeshore Focus, give us a call at 219-756-5656. And instead of seeing my face, you can see your business.